Doof!
The Rise of Skywalker was a pretty bad movie, and it didn't have to be. I keep hearing people say that Rian Johnson left J.J. Abrams with a mess. The Last Jedi was too subversive and disrupted the progress of all the character arcs. I wanted to prove that this isn't true. If J.J. had just played the cards as they lay, the movie would have been at least fine and maybe even great. So I'm going to try to honor the situation that Rian Johnson left at the end of The Last Jedi. I'm going to try to make a decent sequel to The Last Jedi that doesn't rewind the characters or portray them making incoherent decisions. And I'm even going to go out of my way to retain some of the story beats that JJ did end up using. The surprising fact is that creating a decent story is pretty easy if you can just answer a few questions. And the main question is, what do each of the characters want and what do they need? You need to understand the answer to this question, partly because if you're a writer, you can't possibly know where to take the story without thinking about what the characters want and how this want is actually in some way bad for them. The second is that you need to be able to dramatically convey what the character wants to the audience in order for them to feel real. This can be really easy to do, by the way. Remember this scene?
Luke, you do not yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
Think about how much work this one line of dialogue is doing. This single line takes Vader from being a mysterious blank canvas of bad guy to being a dude with motives. This short scene beautifully recontextualizes all of Vader's actions in the film. He wants order. Simple, easy, elegant. One of the greatest scenes in movie history, and what is it actually doing? Explaining a want that we didn't know we were looking for. But we were. The Empire Strikes Back is actually a mystery film, and the mystery is, why does Vader really want Luke? Why is he so obsessed? This scene at the end of the film answers it for us, and it's satisfying as hell. So, what do Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren want? Let's lay this out as the story goes along. In Act 1, we establish the status quo. Big picture, the rebels have been fighting the First Order, but not making any headway. Rose and Poe are there, doing important things and being part of all the key action and banter, but I'm not going to give them arcs in this movie. It's fine. They're not main characters. They're solid side characters. Kylo Ren, he's doing something mysterious involving dark side powers and a super weapon. He seems utterly driven, almost wild, with a burning conviction as he goes about his errands. We aren't told what he wants, but the film lets us know that this is intentional at this point. Perhaps Hux does this job for us and mentions how we don't really know why Kylo Ren fell to the dark side in the first place. We, and the characters in the movie, have no idea what's driving him. Suspicious, no? What about Finn? What does he want? Finn has surprisingly become something of a legend throughout the galaxy. His background as a stormtrooper mingled with his highly public adventure on Canto Bight makes him weirdly popular. Finn hates the First Order. He wants to destroy it. There are innumerable ways to dramatize this in the film. In fact, The Rise of the Skywalker already depicts his utter loathing of the First Order pretty well. Blowing away dozens of TIE fighters while whooping joyfully establishes this nicely. And obviously, we the viewers tug at our collar when he does this because damn, how weird is it that this former stormtrooper is gleefully blowing away his former brethren? Anyway, it's fine if this only impacts us subconsciously at this point. And Rey? At the end of The Last Jedi, recall that Rey had accepted that she comes from nothing, but understands that her strength is in her adoptive family, the Rebels. We're done with this, okay? We're done with the Rey backstory thing. Don't mess with it any further. In the last movie, she wanted Kylo to join her. She even turned herself into the First Order in that movie, paralleling what Luke did in Jedi. So in this movie, she wants to murder Kylo. This gives us a chance to explore Dark Rey from the beginning in a very concrete way. She's training for an assassination. Perhaps Leia still trains her, but Leia is getting really uncomfortable with how dark-sidey things are getting. Maybe we even keep the unexpected Force lightning story beat in some form, but Rey takes it in stride as being another useful tool she can use against Kylo, and it's the other characters that react with unease. A minor point, but Rey will definitely be wearing black, not white, and will definitely have built her own lightsaber, not be using the blue one, and hers is either green or some other ambiguous color that doesn't shout good guy. Yes, this is all paralleling Luke and Jedi. I obviously did that on purpose. I think you actually want to make intentional parallels in these movies for a very valid storytelling reason. You want to use these parallels to set up expectations in a certain direction and then swerve, surprising the audience. A lot of people reacted badly to Rian Johnson's approach and how he went about doing this, but in my opinion, I think it might have simply been too much too fast on too many different levels. A story with no surprises would be absolutely awful. Anyway, we spend all of Act 1 setting up and deepening our understanding of maybe dark Rey, mysterious but highly motivated Kylo, and wrathful Finn. In Act 2, we dramatically worsen the conflict. On the orders of Kylo Ren, the First Order aggressively goes after the rebels. Leia is killed at Kylo's hand. The rebels are scattered, with Rey being separated from the others. Finn is captured by the First Order. Rey decides it's time to embark on her murder mission, which Leia has been holding her back from, partly because Ben is still her son, partly because it would be suicidal to go alone. That doesn't sound like much, but it's actually plenty for Act 2 of a 5-act film. In Act 3, we present the turn, or the twist. Not every movie needs a twist, but if you think about it, Empire and Jedi both kind of did have them. All we were really looking for is a surprising revelation that leads to a moment where all seems lost for our heroes. And here it is. Kylo reveals his secret, which recontextualizes his behavior in all 3 films up to this point. What's his secret? The secret is, well, what does Kylo Ren want? Because again, we actually have no idea. I think the thought process was that The Rise of the Skywalker needed to be a remake of Return of the Jedi, and they needed to redeem Kylo because Kylo is Darth Vader. Actually, this is already lazy language because Vader was never redeemed. Killing the Emperor did not offset all the evil Vader had done. What happened was that his love of his son overcame his loyalty to his master. That was a great moment, but it wasn't a redemption. And anyway, Kylo really has very little in common with Vader except like his outfit. So what does Kylo want? This is actually surprisingly tricky. We have no idea why Kylo turned to the dark side. Not really. We know that Snoke tempted him and offered him greater power. Okay. Why did he want greater power? If a disfigured monster in a gold bathrobe offered you power from something called the dark side, would you really be tempted? Despite how boring the prequels were, at least we understood why Anakin wanted power. He was a traumatized child soldier who had lost his mother in a brutal way and was now being tormented with prophetic dreams of his one true love dying in the near future. He was desperate, so desperate that he took power even when it was offered by a cackling monster. At least it made sense on paper, right? So again, why did Ben Solo want power so much that he was willing to kill all his friends and family for it? The first 2 movies don't tell us, so that actually grants us a fantastic opportunity with this final film. Similarly to how we learned pretty late in the game that Vader had actual human motives and was primarily being driven by love of his son, we could have learned in The Rise of the Skywalker why Ben actually turned to the dark side, and it could have completely changed how we thought about him. Maybe he saw the future and he was convinced that some horrible calamity would happen and he would need as much strength as possible to defend against it. Heck, if you spin it this way, then him killing Han Solo actually kind of retroactively becomes a really interesting story choice. He's sacrificing his own dad for the greater good. Maybe this is why he's kind of a garbage dark side user. His heart isn't in it because he's being evil for all the wrong reasons. It would make sense, right? So what is this calamity that he foresees? Well, it almost doesn't matter. Maybe it's still the return of the cloned emperor. It's a corny idea, but it's in all the EU novels. Execution matters more than the idea itself here. Or maybe it's some superweapon that the Empire built 40 years ago that's only now absorbed enough power that it's activated and it's going to blow all the planets up again. Maybe it's the freaking Yuuzhan Vong. It really doesn't matter all that much, frankly. It could have been something terribly corny and we would have forgiven it if we actually cared about the characters and were actually invested in the story up until the point of the reveal. I'm not necessarily saying that filmmakers should have done that they should have established Kylo's motives as being something noble. They could have gone the other way and clarified for us that he was exactly as bad as he seemed, that he wanted power because he wanted to rule. He felt neglected by his workaholic mom and deadbeat dad, and wanted to fill the void in his heart with power and control. This is at least psychologically grounded in something we can relate to, even if we find it evil. And then, if we know one way or the other what he actually wants, we can actually think about him as a person with goals, desires. We can sort of predict him. And only if we can predict him can we be surprised when the story violates our expectations in interesting ways. This is basically the fundamental principle of how drama works in stories. At a bare minimum, you have to connect with the characters enough to see them as people. Now we get back to Rey. Rey wants to murder Kylo. We get to the big confrontation of Act 3. We're setting up to the all is lost moment. It starts out exactly as we expect. Kylo says, "Join me." Rey says, "No, I'm going to kill you." Kylo says, "No, seriously, if you don't join me, this terrible, awful thing is going to happen. 1 billion planets will get blown up. All life in the galaxy will be extinguished. Worst possible outcome, fill in the blank." And Rey is rocked. Maybe she sees a vision, realizes it's true, realizes she does need more power to defeat the terrible thing that's about to happen. And we, in that moment, aren't even sure what she should do. And she's been getting darker and darker the whole movie. Kylo is persuasive, and we believe that Rey could actually be persuaded. Kylo says, "Now, order the execution of Poe and Finn and Rose. In fact, we have all the rebels captured right over there. Just say the word, order the stormtroopers to gun them down, and you'll be one with the dark side, and then you'll be stronger in the Force, and together we can stop the MacGuffin from doing the thing." So let's leave Rey in this moment of genuine internal conflict and move to Finn for a second. Don't worry, we'll get back to Rey. Finn's character represents the greatest missed opportunity in the entire Star Wars saga. Even if you throw out every other idea from this video, it's obvious that the final battle of this movie should have involved the stormtroopers being ordered to, massacre a bunch of captive rebels, including all of our heroes, and then the stormtroopers being inspired by Finn's story and refusing to follow orders, then turning on their masters. This was even sort of set up if you read between the lines in the prior two films, even the tiniest amount. The stormtroopers are all kidnapped slaves who are only kept in line through persistent dehumanization and torment. Maybe all they need to push them to revolt is a good excuse in a sense that they might actually succeed, which Finn and our heroes would provide. Okay, so Finn wants to fight for the rebel cause and defeat the First Order. We finished The Last Jedi on this note. It works pretty well. That's his want. The remaining problem at the end of The Last Jedi is that he hates the First Order in a fairly uncomplicated way. And in line with not killing what he hates but saving what he loves, I think his need has to be that he gradually learns that the key to victory isn't blowing up another several million of his former brothers, but actually cleverly suborning them, redeeming them. Maybe it sounds cheesy to you, I don't know. Can't you picture the Imperial pricks in their olive green uniforms freaking out as the stormtroopers start pulling off their helmets, revealing a shocking variety of human faces behind those masks, and turning their weapons on their captors? What's more emotionally impactful, watching yet another Star Destroyer get blowed up, or watching the stormtroopers cuff the Imperial officers on the bridge of a Star Destroyer, and then that Star Destroyer turning to fight on the side of the good guys? Can you at least admit it could be cool? I think it could have been cool. Act 4 of the 5-act structure is called The Spiral. It's full of fast-paced and dramatic character decisions. Here, seeing that even the freaking stormtroopers won't stoop that low, Rey snaps out of it and she and Ben fight. And now it's a tragic fight where neither of them really wants to kill the other, but they each believe that they have to do it. Because Rey thinks Kylo isn't actually evil at heart, but he's still wrong. She insists that they'll find another way to defeat the MacGuffin. And we now understand that Kylo cares about and maybe even loves Rey, but he still thinks that if she won't join him, then he has to kill her to become strong enough to do what needs to be done. There's a lot of ways this could go from here, right? The details are less important once we've nailed down the inter and intra character conflicts. I see Rey beating Kylo down and then tossing away the lightsaber and refusing to kill him, which is fundamentally the finishing move of a Jedi. But this time, instead of doing this to defy some third party, she's basically daring Kylo to kill her. And he can't do it. Even after all he's done, even after the threat that he believes is coming, he can't do it. And he cries, and Rey cries, and we cry. Rey wanted to kill Kylo, but she needed to let go of her hate and rage. And Kylo thought that he needed to kill everything he loved to be powerful enough to save the galaxy, but in fact, he needed to put his trust in others and let somebody else help him. And then I think they have to defeat the MacGuffin anyway because it's Star Wars and that's how these things go. I come not to bury conventional storytelling, but to praise it. What happens in the plot doesn't matter nearly as much as what happens between the characters. Easy answer, it turns out that the dark side lied to both Kylo and Rey because it's the dark side. That's what it does. Now, this is my own personal hobby horse, but what does darkness actually mean in these movies anyway? Because to me, when I think of darkness festering in a human soul, I think of hate, jealousy, grudges, prejudice, selfishness, and all the other parts of the human animal that reliably wind us up and make us into monsters. And the thing about all these dark elements of the psyche is that they lie and distort. In real life, darkness only brings power in the sense that darkness tricks you into thinking that you're getting what you want when you indulge yourself in it, but you're not actually. These movies rarely talk about that stuff, though, aside from the prequels, which really just gave us some word salad anyway. So somebody breaks the thing and stop the blue laser from shooting into the sky. Maybe Kylo has to sacrifice himself to do it. Maybe not. I can see it working either way. The final act wraps everything up with Finn becoming the leader and near messiah of liberated tens of millions of First Order slave soldiers, and Rey having found a kind of personal, individual balance after having gone so far into the dark and realized firsthand how it lies to you. Personally, I wanted Rey to end the saga neither dark nor light, but balanced. An individual with none of the weird hang-ups of the Jedi and none of the Sithiness of the Sith. Just a person making her way in the world and teaching others how to use the Force in a balanced and healthy way. That's what I wanted. Is it what I need? I don't know. Maybe The Mandalorian will help me figure out what I need.